Welcome to Reeldeemers, where we champion the B-sides, the offbeat, and the overlooked. We've worked in and around Hollywood, so we know just how hard it is to get a movie made. This is our space to celebrate cinematic misfits that we hope you'll enjoy as much as we do. We don't just love superheroes and killer whales here on the pod. No, constant listeners, we are also able to appreciate classic literature and high art. If there's a maligned adaptation of a beloved property, sign us up. And that brings us to today's Gothic entry, the 2026 version of Wuthering Heights. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Bellavia, and I'm here with
Andres Anglade.
And today's episode is no mere podcast, friends. This is a journey. Now, believe it or not, Andreas and I are not huge Wuthering Heights heads. This version was on our radar, but the idea of both of us jumping in cold with no history of the novel or prior adaptations seemed like we would be doing you a disservice because we wouldn't really understand any of this film's backlash. We would have nothing to compare the film's successes or failures to. Andreas and I decided we were going to come at this from two different directions. He would watch this version, only this version, whereas I would read Emily Bronte's classic novel and try and watch at least the 1939 William Wyler version to get a feel for what a beloved adaptation felt like. Now, Andreas, before I go any further, what did you know about Wuthering Heights prior to you watching this film?
Well, hold on. I also want our listeners to know that it wasn't like I chose the easy route here. You had already started reading the book and was curious about it, thinking about us doing this film. So I don't want people to think, oh, yeah, I'll just bring the napkins and soda to the party.
I didn't want to sign you up in case this was arduous. I didn't want to drag you on a, 20 plus hour reading or audiobook adventure.
There was a part of me that was like, maybe I could fit in the book before we record, but no, it did end up being a little crazy for my schedule. I was familiar with this book was big. I thought there were more film adaptations. I ended up looking up how many there are, but it seems like there's a ton of TV adaptations or miniseries.
Okay, great observation.
Yeah.
I think there's a reason for that, which we will get into kind of as we go. Now, full disclosure, I'm a reader. I love reading, but I'm also a working father, so it was easier for me to do the unabridged audio book for this go around. And some classic literature doesn't age well at all. Some classic literature is dry, but you can see why people love it. And some classic literature is still fantastic after over a century, close to 2 centuries. And I honestly, 100%, no irony, really enjoyed the novel.
Oh, awesome.
I would legit recommend it. It's funny. If we have Wuthering Heights fans out there listening, welcome, number one. Number two, I just say, yeah, I'm a convert. I really did enjoy this. And I've read other classical stuff that maybe didn't connect as well. But what surprised me about it was kind of how modern the emotions felt. And again, I don't quite want to have the other shoe drop yet with Andreas not knowing the differences between this movie and the novel and the other adaptations. There's a savageness at times to the Heathcliff character that I found very bracing. Even at the time, the novel was decreed as immoral and people were upset about it. And I get that. So I know a lot of times people can just be prudes about art in general. But with some of that criticism back in the day, I can see it. I'm not condoning it, but I do get where that was coming from. After I knocked the book out, I had a movie night with my wife, and we watched the William Wyler film. Now, if I was going to create a short list of the best directors of all time, William Wyler would absolutely be on there. So no surprise, his version starring Laurence freaking Olivier was also amazing. It takes some liberties, but the way screenwriters Ben Hecht, Charles MacArthur, and an uncredited John Huston are able to streamline things is masterful. The new ending of the film totally fits, and it would seem like that was what Bronte was going for the entire time. So it is truly, again, with no bias in my heart, I think a fantastic way to kind of trim the story down and present it to a mass audience back in 1939. But we're going to talk more about that and the novel in just a few. But let's get into today's film. Andreas, what is 2026's Wuthering Heights?
To talk about 2026's Wuthering Heights, we have to talk about the writer and director, Emerald Fennell. She started her career as an actress and then gained prominence as the showrunner of Killing Eve Season 2. She made her film directing and writing debut with Promising Young Woman in 2020, where she won the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. The film was also nominated for Best Picture and Best Director, which is amazing for your debut film. And notably, she became one of only 7 women and the first British woman to earn a nomination in the directing category. Again, Amazing.
Amazing.
So in 2023, Fennell wrote, produced, and directed her second feature film, Saltburn, which starred Barry Keoghan and Jacob Elordi. And then in 2024, her third feature was announced, an adaptation of Wuthering Heights with Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi. Per Wikipedia, quote, Fennell asked Elordi to play Heathcliff after seeing him on the set of Saltburn one day, as he looked exactly like the illustration of Heathcliff in the first book that I had read. The casting was widely criticized online due to Robbie being cast as a teenage protagonist and Elordi playing a role described as dark-skinned in the original novel. In talking about her goals for the film, Fennell stated, I wanted to make something that made me feel like I felt when I first read it, which means that it's an emotional response to something. It's like primal, sexual. So then she made this version of Wuthering Heights.
And I just have to say, look, I don't want to dip our toes too much into this, but guys, spoiler alert, the real world is not the online world, and vice versa. There's a lot of people online, and take this what you will, aren't huge fans of Fennell. And I think like Nepo Baby gets thrown around, her background, whatever. I saw a very strange backlash to Promising Young Woman. When I saw posters for this in the theater, I said to Andreas, I bet we're going to be covering this movie at some point. Because people have like their pitchforks out for them. Now, if you do not connect with their work, okay. That's totally fine. You know, everybody, different choice for different folks. That's fine. To me, there is a kind of an odd backlash against a woman writer, director, successful actress, that type of thing. For all I know, and you know, listeners, please write in. Has she clubbed any seals? Has she forced orphans to work in a factory? I don't know if I've seen that. I think she's just out there living her life and doing her thing. So I think that ties somewhat into this. But long story short, to Andreas's point, this is her version, to literally to the point where the film's title is in quotation marks deliberately, because this is her version of Wuthering Heights, not a novel accurate depiction. AV Club, which I read religiously, and I'm a huge fan of. When this project was announced, the headline is, God help us, Emerald Fennell is doing Wuthering Heights.
What? That's crazy.
And now I just feel like that's a lot of people's reaction.
I'm having the same feeling of when we discussed Zack Snyder. Like
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Like people just have it out for people, and I don't understand it. If it's not your thing, then just, you know, you don't have to watch this stuff.
Not the first time we're going to bring Zack Snyder up in this episode.
Oh boy.
But that's good. I'm glad
maybe you're obsessed.
I told Andres I just watched Obsession last night, which was very good. That's me with Zack Snyder. And Fennell's a talented cat, and that's why we're here. We're just discussing him. But look, Promising Young Woman was not what I expected, for sure. I thought it was going to be more of a conventional rape revenge story, and there's certain hallmarks of the genre where you get to like see like this badass woman taking these scumbags down. That is not what that movie is, but that's also not designed. I can't be upset that the movie wasn't designed to the movie that I had in my head. That's not a fair criticism. And then Saltburn, I don't think Saltburn's perfect, but there's a lot to like, and the production design's off the charts, kind of some deep emotions, and I don't really want to get it. You could easily dip into spoiler territory with Saltburn. I'll just say, I think she's the perfect person in 2026 to adapt Wuthering Heights. Not necessarily, again, to give you a one-to-one book adaptation, but seeing rich people, seeing a level of depravity, seeing a level of obsession, the production design being like off the charts, all of that is present in Saltburn. So then to be like, oh, yeah, that person's going to take on Wuthering Heights, that makes sense. It's not like I would give her all of a sudden, let's say, I don't know, War and Peace. I don't think that's necessarily their wheelhouse. Hey, maybe it is. Maybe they'll surprise us. But this project absolutely does seem like something that they would have a vision for. So again, that AV Club headline makes me laugh, because I'm like, I do think this is the right director for the project. I was going to ask, so what is Wuthering Heights about? But even that is a little off. What is 2026's Wuthering Heights about?
It's the story of Kathy, who lives with her father, who is, I think, widowed, and he brings along a young boy named Heathcliff, who he found on the streets, and brings him into their home to become a servant for him. Kathy and Heathcliff grow up together and form a very, very strong bond. But as her father is dealing with money troubles, Kathy feels like she needs to get the attention of a very rich man named Linton who moved into an estate next door. And ultimately, her feelings for Linton and Heathcliff's feelings for her all clash together in what I would purport to be a romance story, but there's darker elements at play as well.
Okay, so I'm now coming into this with a lot of baggage. So I would love to hear your thoughts to start us off. Going completely cold, how did this hit you?
Greg, I'm a sucker for romance movies and rom-coms. I'm all about a good love story. Give me English Patient, Nicholas Sparks, Bridgerton. Even if people call them cheesy, I'll eat it up. I always want to do more on this show, but Sicko Greg says nay.
I don't know
I'm
if that's
kidding.
accurate,
I'm
but,
kidding. But I was looking forward to this. It has a hot trailer. There's 2 hot stars. And again, Emerald Fennell is a talented director and writer. Typically, I want to root for the characters. And I'll say in the first half, I thought the buildup of the relationship was loving and cute. And then I realized just how terrible these people are. And I had a moment where I was like, I'm supposed to dislike these people. Okay. And there's 2 shots that sort of help sell my feelings on this film. The first one is when Kathy sees her dead father in his room with 2 massive piles of green empty bottles stacked to the ceiling on each side of him. I watched this with my wife and she said, it's trying to be hyperbolic in an artsy way because it's an extreme shot. It's just there in your face. And
yes.
my initial thought was it's a bit too much. But that shot coupled with another one where it's a wide shot of Kathy in her bedroom, which has wallpaper that emulates her skin, including her freckles. So, which I'm sure we'll get into in a little bit. She's sick and she's being treated with leeches. But the leeches aren't just on her skin, they're also on the skin of the wallpaper. And to me, that's the movie. It's trying to toe the line between serious and camp. And I feel like if it had leaned more into the camp, be a bit more extreme, it would have connected better for me. I feel like this needed to be almost a bit more Baz Luhrmann, like that kind of extreme, that kind of magic. And I feel it skirts around that in some of the scenes, but it really needs to go for it. I say I wasn't rooting for these characters, but I was rooting for Emerald Fennell. I do admire this take. There are things to enjoy, which we'll get into. I mean, again, she had Margot Robbie coming off of Barbie, Jacob Elordi, who's a rising star. I just wish it would have gone a bit more extreme in its design, and I'm so curious to hear about the book and the other versions. Maybe that might help me connect with this one more.
Thank you, and thank you for going in cold. And I think it's an interesting movie night. I did the 1939 with my wife. You did this one with your. I'm curious what my wife. I gave her kind of a quick description, and she was like, "Oh, that sounds interesting. Not good or bad, just interesting." But I like this. It is different than the novel, but as Fennell's interpretation of the material, and they're very open about that, something that's been in their head since they were 14. I like this vision, and no reservations, no asterisks. Some of our episodes we can fall back on the F word. It's fun. Fun being a type of shield against other defects. I'm looking at you, Masters of the Universe, but as a stylish, romantic period piece done in a modern style, I dug this. And, you know, as you said earlier, Margot Robbie's charismatic and attractive. Jacob Elordi, charismatic and attractive. It's cool to see 2 charismatic and attractive people hooking up. There's real thought put into the direction and the set design and the Charlie XCX like soundtrack. You can feel the intention behind things. I love how dilapidated Wuthering Heights feels. This is the worst it's ever looked on screen compared to some of the versions, spoiler, that I've seen of other films. And then how absolutely opulent Thrushcross Grange is, like over the top visual.
Yeah.
Yes, it oftentimes looks very rich, but the set design in that mansion is like off the charts. The dresses Catherine gets to wear once she's there. It's all dialed to 11. So I see what you're saying, and I think this is a good meat of the conversation. I think we can return to this after we kind of get into the other versions. To me, this is the regular story dialed in that Luhrmann direction. Like, so it's already 5 steps removed from it doesn't look like any other Wuthering Heights adaptation you've ever seen. Now, look, guys, there might be a crazy adaptation out there that I'm not seeing, but I did take a cross selection of a few famous ones, and we'll get into it. But that heightened reality, the leeches on the wall making the heart, like when she's hooking up the snow falling, when she's
Yeah.
outside in the snow with him wearing like the red cloak, like how that strikes. Not quite. I mean, I would love it if it was. We were big fans of Let the Corpses Tan, this French crime movie, and there, like, you could feel the textures of things. Now that's textures like 10 out of 10. You know, every piece of sound design, every frame you can kind of like climb in there. I would have loved it if this had gone there, but at least this is on the track of like everything's dialed to feel the emotions up with it. It's not supposed to be reality; it's a hyper reality.
And I feel that. I definitely get that, and I admire that. I think it's a great take. And again, like I said, I'm curious to hear if you said other takes aren't quite like that. I wish it just would have gone a little bit further.
This is why it's interesting coming in with the other ones versus coming in cold. I would agree. Having read the novel, there were different takes that even came to mind for myself. Well, if I were to do it, I'd do it like this. If I was to do it, I would like pick up on this plot line and stuff that isn't even present in any of the versions I've seen so far. And I'm not sure if it's been adapted that way at all, but it has been adapted quite a lot, several films and a lot of TV. Now, there's a level of hashtag not my Wuthering Heights that's present here. We're going to head into that discussion in a moment. For me, the question is, do Fennell's changes betray the novel? Anything she does here, at some point do you offer? If you're a big Wuthering Heights fan, is there something done here that like betrays the spirit of Bronte's writing? And I was laughing to myself because what recently came to mind, first thing, was our Batman v Superman discussion.
Yeah.
This is the only podcast, folks, where we're going to compare Heathcliff to Batman. Here we are. Now, in the modern comics, Batman doesn't kill. And in Zack Snyder's film, he does. Now, is that a deal breaker to you if you're a fan of the character? Andreas and I were okay with it because it fit the spirit of that film. Batman still fights crime. He's still trying to do good. The film explains the rough mental state he's in. We met the film where it was. And I feel like if I'm going in with that take, I think she still hits it. Okay, here are the differences from the novel. I'm not going to get into every little thing, but broad strokes, here we go. We start the novel in the present, and most of it is Nellie the maid narrating what happened to Mr. Lockwood, a tenant on Heathcliff's property. Catherine's father is a nice man who wants to give Heathcliff a good life. He dies, and then it's Catherine's older brother, Hindley, who takes over the household, and having hated Heathcliff his whole life, he forces him into the servant role.
Whoa. So then Heathcliff was sort of treated like a brother?
He was treated great for a time.
Wow.
And then it's turned. So I think turning her father into kind of a Jekyll and Hyde figure. Yes, he adopts him. Yes, I guess he's giving him a better life than the street, but also he'll turn on him and whip him at a moment. So as Andreas said, he drinks himself to death. He's a gambling alcoholic. He's in horrible shape. So and also there's a scene early in the film where Heathcliff and Kathy are out cavorting as children, and it takes them forever to come home. And the father's throwing a hissy fit because they missed his birthday. And I love him pouting about, you missed my birthday. I'm going to forget your birthday and all that. But then he'll be like loving the next scene. So he's totally like hot or cold, depending on like what mood he's in.
I absolutely loved the characterization of the father. I thought that was great.
I thought that was a very interesting way to also shorthand, one less character to have to juggle in.
Yeah.
Nellie is around Hindley, the brother's age. So she's a little older than Catherine and Heathcliff, but she still grew up with them. So again, I like her and in this version, her and Nellie are thick as thieves until Heathcliff enters the picture. And then Nellie, the maid, is kind of just turned into a maid instead of a friend at that point. And that's an undercurrent of the film as well, of Nellie. One, Nellie's kind of the voice of reason at times in the film, but also Nellie sees how Catherine's behaving, and there's a level of like, you're being really silly. So she's also the antagonist. So at one hand, she's the practical one and an audience surrogate, like, hey, get your shit together. But the other hand, action she takes kind of leads to Catherine's death here because she's not taking how sick she is seriously. And perhaps if she had intervened a little sooner or let Linton into the room, maybe that ending would have played out a little bit differently. But okay, we'll get into Nellie more. Joseph the servant is a crabby old dude who likes thumping his Bible and judging everyone else. He gets a glow up in this version that rivals Hot Frosty. That's a total switch around from the novel for what his function is here. Yeah. He functions into the story very well. So you might be grasping your pearl strings like, oh my gosh, but at the same time, there's a reason for it. And I like that. Okay. Linton and Isabella are siblings with living parents. So I think turning it into the ward relation. So here, Linton is Isabella's ward, and she's much younger than he is.
I'll be honest. One thing that that confused both my wife and I was the ages. I could not tell how many years pass between even when they were kids to like, are they teenagers now? Like, I know I read in the Wikipedia excerpt that people had issues with Margot playing a teenager, but yeah, I couldn't tell what their ages were.
Sure, I can see that. Oh, but also like Laurence Olivier's playing young in the 1939 version. So I guess just like I could see that. Also, I guess it wasn't like a deal breaker for me in terms of just you get the emotion of here they are young, here they are a few years later.
No, I don't mean that. It wasn't a deal breaker for me. It was more when Kathy has her sort of sexual awakening.
Yep.
And the sort of how sexually charged about possession that this is, my immediate thought was, how old are they? Because wouldn't they have felt these feelings towards each other already?
I think that's a good way of phrasing it. We'll get into more of that relationship as we go. Hindley, the older brother, does have a gambling problem, but Catherine does not pursue Linton because she needs the money. She legit covets the social status, and you get the feeling that she likes having two men who are obsessed with her. She brings Linton around, and she kind of likes playing him off of Heathcliff a bit. She cares for Linton, but she doesn't like capital L love him like she does Heathcliff. And Heathcliff overhears the conversation with Nellie, but in the film, Nellie makes a point of having Heathcliff overhear it to hurt Catherine. At one point, there's a conversation between Catherine and Nellie where Catherine is split between, should I go with Linton, this rich man, or should I follow my heart with Heathcliff? And Nellie is trying to offer her counsel. In both the book and the film, Nellie's a little contemptuous of it, of like, this is a silly conversation to be having, and just you're acting like a brat. And during that conversation, Heathcliff will overhear the declaration of love, but also that Catherine thinks that she's above him, and he will leave for a period of years. It's a huge turning point. In the movie, Nellie is not only conscious that Heathcliff is there, she wants him to hear it, because Catherine is being rude to her, and it's almost like, well, fuck you then, and let him hear, and that drives him off. So Nellie could have intervened and stopped it. Nellie knows Heathcliff is there in the novel, but it's not spelled out as this deliberate act of malice.
I love it in this version.
Again, I also love it in this version.
It's that sort of reckoning of my brain being like, yeah, everyone's kind of an asshole here.
Yep. And I just pause on my description. Nellie, to me, she's the narrator. She's front to back throughout the novel. She's a point of contention. And midway through the novel, I'm like, do I not like Nellie? And I look it up. A whole bunch of people feel that way. I've joined like Wuthering Heights High because you need the narrator to be in places throughout. She has to hear conversations. She has to be like center stuff. There are times where she could intervene in the story and maybe make life easier for multiple characters, but because they need the story to keep going, she either does something wrong or whatever. And the novel never really judges her for it. And I like that clearly Fennell felt the same way I did. And they're like, fuck Nellie.
Yeah.
Now you get why she's upset with Catherine. That's the beauty of it. But at the same time, late in the film, Kathy is getting sicker and sicker and sicker, and she's pregnant, and Nellie is not taking the sickness like seriously. It's basically like, you're being silly, like get up. And then Heathcliff's trying to send her love letters that would cheer her up, and she's burning all the letters. Now, it's not that explicit in the novel, and they dial that Nellie harshness up to 10 here. And I like that's an approach, because that is totally new to the film.
I really like that. I also like that her motivations for that are well laid out,
yes.
where you get why she's doing that, why she's acting that way. But again, I felt like even the Kathy character, I didn't think was a nice person. I'm not saying she deserved to die, but there was a moment when she said she was pregnant. I thought she might be lying. Is that sort of played up in the book or the other film that way?
Her pregnancy, okay. In the book and the 1939 film and the other version. I saw the Weiler 1939. Louise Buñuel did a version that I wanted. Like, Louise Buñuel did a version of Wuthering Heights. I checked that one out. And then there's a version in 1992 with Juliette Binoche and Ralph Fiennes, who is very good as Heathcliff. I'll just say that. In those versions, basically she's heartbroken to death. That's it. Yes, she's in childbirth, but you get the impression she has worked herself up to death. That's it. The childbirth didn't kill her. The heartbreak did. Here, I like it's implied the childbirth killed her. It's like, yes, she's heartbroken. Yes, her being heartbroken is feeding it. But at one point, she says, I think I lost the baby. And Nellie callously is like, well, was there blood? And she's like, no. And Nellie's like, well, she basically, I think you're a liar then. And then she has sepsis. and dies. So that is more pronounced than any of the films or in the book. They don't get into the specifics of it. So I think the movie is really trying to say, yeah, oh yes, the heartbreak plays into it. Don't get me wrong. This is a woman in childbirth who's being ignored. And that led to
yeah, that's clearly spelled out. I didn't think she was lying about being pregnant at that point when Nellie confronts her. It was even earlier. I thought maybe she was just doing it to give Linton the idea that, oh, I'm still with you.
No,
mentally,
because in the novel, as you're alluding to, and I think you're picking up on, her and Heath. Okay, here's the thing: everybody in the novel you can have empathy for, and you're frustrated by. Literally every character, and that's one of the things that I like about it, because it's. I think Fennell described the novel as like immoral, based on how people acted out. Nobody's like judged. This person was good, so they get X. This person acted badly, and they get Y. It's just people act like people, and that's it. And I think that was kind of shocking for the time as well.
And to me, that works. It took me a while to understand that that's what this film was doing, and once I did appreciate it a lot more.
So to your question, I took her at face value because she could be an asshole. Like, so her being pregnant, she would tell Linton to his face if she felt differently. She's openly cajoling him to be more of a man when like Heathcliff's around. She would just be open about, yeah, I'm having the baby and I'm still hanging out with this guy. What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah, that's true. That's true, because she very much in this version is all about Heathcliff and kind of not against Linton, but doesn't pay him as much mind as it sounds like she did in other versions. Like you said, that she really enjoys having the attention of two men. Here it's really she wants Heathcliff.
I agree. Okay, so I think that's Fennell's romance novel version of it. The 14-year-old, the passion part of it that spoke to her. So she cranked that. I mean, this is a movie with a whole bunch of dials cranked. The Nellie dials cranked to 10. The romance dial. But no, I would agree with you. So okay, Hindley, the brother, has a wife and then a son, Hareton. The wife dies, which sends Linton off the deep end where he's the drunken mess. And after Heathcliff buys Wuthering Heights, Heathcliff enjoys keeping him around, with Hindley constantly threatening to kill him at all times, but Heathcliff knows he's too much of a coward to do anything about it. I miss that in this version. Now, I don't think it would work with the dad, because again, he's Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
But like, that's something I do enjoy the other versions. In the 1939 version, Hindley pulls a gun on him, and Heathcliff's like, you're not going to do anything with that. And he drops the gun, and Joseph, the servant, goes to take it away. And Heathcliff's like, give him the gun back. He's not going to do anything with it. He just lets him have the gun at all times. Heathcliff's treated so poorly. He's an asshole. And as we're going to get into with other stuff, but there's a reason for it. He's been treated like dirt. The woman he loved is willing to go off with somebody else. Not that necessarily justifies everything, but again, the empathy. I can empathize with how angry he is.
Again, I think the motivations are spelled out very well in all the characters, but I don't think you need that. I don't think you need the brother character in this version.
In this version, I agree. Oh, okay. I agree with you. If Nellie being played harsher works, I agree with you. I don't need him turning the screws to the dad in this version, with how the father is written. Hindley deserves every bit of it, but the father's not Hindley, because at least there's the Jekyll side to him. Like, he did get him off the streets. He did put him into this situation. Catherine works herself up into a frenzy over the situation and dies after childbirth. Her daughter lives and is named after her, Catherine, or Little Kathy.
Oh.
So we have two kids. We have Hareton, now we have Kathy. Hindley dies because he takes horrible care of himself. And Heathcliff marries Isabella, despite everyone. But he's not nice about it. So in this version, Heathcliff, because he's so upset that Catherine has gone off with Linton, he ends up marrying Isabella the ward. In this version, how would you describe the relationship?
Oh, he's just using her to get back at Kathy.
But how would you describe her to him?
She's his pet.
I think she gets off on I think she's enjoying the sexual side of this relationship.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a consensual.
She's into it. It's fully consensual. Yeah.
It's fully consensual. So he literally goes to her and he's like, I'm going to treat you terribly. Are you okay with this? I'm going to do this to you. I'm going to do that to you. But it's like, it's a seduction scene. I'm going to do all these terrible things to you. And then she's living with him. And she writes a letter to Nellie, like, have I married a man or a monster? But she's in on it with him. She's writing the letter with him, trying to get information. They're a team, even though, like, yes, he doesn't love her. Yes, it's just a purely sexual relationship. In the novel, it ain't like that. He marries her out of spite. He is not nice to her. He is an abusive husband. Like, that letter is in the novel. That is 100% a legit. Who have I married? What have I done? I want to come home. Heathcliff and Isabella have a son named Linton, after Isabella's brother. Isabella leaves with the son and dies years later. Heathcliff collects Linton, and here's the part of the story which most films avoid, and this is why it's been adapted for TV. because with TV, you can stretch the entire story out to its conclusion. A huge portion of the novel is devoted to Heathcliff's revenge plan. Revenge for Hindley being a jerk to him and Linton Sr. taking Catherine away from him. The final part of the novel is devoted to Heathcliff's horrible treatment of the three children. He wants to humiliate Hareton, turn him into a servant like Hindley once did to him. He also wants his sickly son Linton to inherit everything by marrying young Kathy. Now, how all that plays out is a story for another podcast, but I get it. There's so much plot that the complicated relationships between all the characters that's hard to fit into a 2-hour movie. But I will say the 1992 version with Ralph Fiennes tries to put the whole thing in. So now let's take this in a full circle. Heathcliff in the book and in every other movie adaptation I watched is an absolute bastard. That is not a Lordy in this version. You get that he's in love with Catherine. He's a little harsh at times. The Heathcliff of the novel will punch a kid in the face. Like, now, the kids aren't around the 39 version or the Boonwell version, but you could believe those versions of him were capable of that. And in Ray Fiennes' version, he's a bastard. Going back to the empathy, though, at the same time, no character suffers more than him. He is so heartbroken that no one is, even with his horrible treatment of the characters around him, he also comes off as the saddest character at all times, too. So it's this interesting needle to thread. So taking this full circle about betrayal, if you're a Wuthering Heights head, hashtag Wuthering Heights head, and you feel like the portrayal of Heathcliff and Catherine here is too nice, I could see that. But I would say a true betrayal would be if she really fell for Linton, or if he really fell for Isabella, or if they ever betrayed each other. That to me is the betrayal. I feel like the backbone of the story is still their love affair. And yes, she's altered it. Yes, it's nicer here, but like, I think it's still here. And I think they represent that well. So I think it's a vastly different version, not as brutal as the other ones, but I also enjoyed it.
I mean, you definitely get him being an asshole in this version, but definitely not that much of an asshole as, I guess, in other versions.
Ralph Fiennes is like, I mean, imagine Ralph Fiennes, you've seen him in like villain mode.
Yeah.
And the first half of the movie is him in kind of romantic mode. And then the second half, and also they do an interesting thing in the 92 version where Juliette Binoche plays both Catherine and then young Kathy grown up.
Oh.
So I think that's a good way to.
Does she distinguish the characteristics enough that it's played well, or is it
the hair? She's a brunette, then she's a blonde, so at least they do that. I will say, I think older Catherine gets a little short shrifted in that one, because I think a true Catherine, you also kind of have to hate her too. I hate him at times because of how mean he's being. I never get to the point where they match each other's freak, as the kids would say. And I feel like he is given so much meat to chew on in it. You get that. With her, yeah, she's kind of bitchy at times, but it's not that. There's this level of like entitledness or spoiledness. That's like, I want it all to that character. I don't necessarily get that from Binoche, but I do think she does a good job playing two characters. Okay. Also, that movie's an hour and 45 minutes. That's a half hour shorter than this one with that other plot line involved.
Interesting.
The other thing is the talk of spirits. So I think the number one monologue, and even at the time, I didn't know this, like, guys, I went in cold. I didn't know that this was like the big moment. It's now been referenced. It's like the centerpiece of all the films, including this one, the haunt me monologue. Catherine's passed away. Heathcliff is just enraged and sad. And he goes in, if she was so heartbroken by dealing with him, then I must be a murderer to you. And if I'm your murderer, then come and haunt me. Drive me mad. It's a great speech. And like, even listening to it, like in my car, I'm like, man, that's a heater. And of course, it's the centerpiece of the novel. It's the literal end of this film. Like you can't hit a higher high. A part of the book is ghosts and spirits. And like, that's the gothicness of it. But Lockwood, the tenant, has a nightmare that a ghost visits like his room and he freaks out, and Heathcliff responds to that. Then you've got this famous speech, and then there's like late in the film, is Catherine haunting the grounds? And now the book never like 100% wraps that up in a bow, but there's things you can read into. And I just find it interesting, to your point, if this is the Baz Luhrmann version, or this wants to be the Baz Luhrmann version, I think you could have done a lot with that. And I guess that, again, that's the Greg Bellavia's interpretation. I love ghosts and ghouls and all that jazz. That's so rich. By cutting, I guess just where that leads into is every other version I watched, Heathcliff goes on a little bit. Maybe it doesn't go on forever. Maybe you don't get a half hour worth of stuff, but like there's a little bit. This one, she dies, movie's over.
Yeah.
That's it. And I almost kind of wanted to give it a few extra minutes because I think you need Heathcliff's reaction to this. and you don't get enough. Just the movie's over when she's dead. And I think that's what morphs him into being so cruel in the novel as he never comes back from this. Well, exactly. That would have been my version. But again, my version's not Fennell's.
And do they ever say in any of the versions how he made his money when he left Wuthering Heights?
Nope.
Interesting.
But the 39 version does a very cool way of like how he explains around. Again, the 39 version is like a masterclass in like streamlining. Not to say I don't like this one too, but like they came out of the gate very strong. And also, I'll go back talking about adaptations. There's certain stories where I feel like there's a lot of good to okay Great Gatsby adaptations. There's no Great Gatsby where I'm like, nailed it. Like the Great American Novel. That movie totally encapsulates it. Is there a Sun Also Rises for Hemingway that you'd be like, yes, that is a version that I would show to anybody? 1984. They've been some good versions, but I don't know if there's ever been like the slam dunk, this is the 1984. With Wuthering Heights, there have been a lot of good adaptations, and I think that just speaks to like how meaty the story is. Oh, the Boonwell version starts with Heathcliff's return, and it goes to Catherine's death. So the entire hour and a half is just that period of time without them as kids or without their, and it still works.
That's an interesting take.
It really loves to luxuriate in his antagonistic relationship with Hindley, and also it really plays up his horrible relationship with Isabella. And I guess just like to tie it back into this one, guys, thank you for staying with us as we kind of detoured through some other versions. What I like about Fennell's version is she clearly understands the material. Literally, when Isabella is introduced, she's explaining to Linton about Romeo and Juliet. But what is she really talking about with Romeo and Juliet? How much of a villain she views the nurse character, which is commenting on Nellie in the story. So you know the meta-ness there, but I like that meta. And so she understands what she's doing. The novel's not sexual. There's no like you can read into it. They're going off together. They're doing X, Y, and Z. But Fennell's leaning into this passionate relationship.
The whole movie starts with what sounds like a man about to orgasm, and we straight cut. It's actually a man being hanged. That's a specific take, and to me that worked. I was like, wow, that's a hell of an opening.
Yep. And then having a certain reaction that all the kids are laughing at. I mean, like, this is not your father's Wuthering Heights.
And then you saying that the other ones aren't as sexual. This is absolutely a sexually charged film.
Yes. So going back, when you say crank up the dial on the allurement of it, I can see that. It could go even further. But I guess, to me, having seen the other ones, nothing is as stylized as this one. I'm not saying that's better, necessarily, but like, it's just the way the art design is off the charts. Like, the way they're leaning into the Charlie XCX soundtrack. And Andreas brought it up earlier, the Joseph character, again, played as an old Bible-thumping, unpleasant man in the novel and in the other versions, is here as a young stud who's hooking up with another servant on the property, Zilla. They kind of have, I guess the whole film kind of has a level of the 50 Shades of grayification of Wuthering Heights. Now, you might bristle at that, but again, that's, you know, it's different, and it's whether or not it lands or not for you. But it's him having kind of like this BDSM relationship with, they're trying to select out of the stables, what are they going to use for their tryst? And Catherine and Heathcliff like see that, and they kind of have a moment bonding over like both being able to watch in this voyeuristic tendency. That's nowhere near the novel, but I think that's a neat addition to this film because it fits in with this world that Fennell's showing us.
Oh, 100%. Also, just there's so much imagery, sexually charged imagery. I mean, but imagery of like pain and sex. There's, like you said, the BDSM moment where Joseph and Zilla, and she ends up picking a bridle where she's wearing a horse's bridle as he's having his way with her. Consensual.
Yep.
Also, there's these close-ups of Heathcliff's back where he has been whipped as a boy and still has those scars. And then even on her wedding day, Kathy wants her dress to be tighter, and we get these shots of her back. But then to your point of the ending scene with the great haunt me dialogue, the sort of last moments of the film with that ending, I thought was awesome.
You got to nail that. To me, that you want a betrayal. If you can't nail that moment, I think it'd be great to do a supercut of all the different actors and how they stage that. Because every version, they put it in like a different like spot, or just like how the blocking is of it. And in the Boonwell one, he hears the news like outside, and it's him walking along a garden wall, but he's in like darkness. So it's him in shadow, like calling on, hey, all right, you want to haunt me? Come and haunt me. I guess that's it. I think Laurie does a good job. Now, look, it's Fennell's version. If they're happy with how this turned out, great. I will say, I think as an actor, for me, it'd be fun to play the full spectrum of Heathcliff. Romantic and then total bastard. And I know Jacob Elordi has the range. You see him on Euphoria playing not the nicest of guys and in other stuff. I think he's up to that challenge. So I think maybe there's even more over the top version, but one, that's not Fennell's interpretation of the material. Two, I think that's maybe a harder sell to a modern audience. Yeah, he's a real jerk, and you have to kind of like acclimate yourself to that. But again, in the novel, everything's given context. You're in with it. It works. I would highly recommend, if you haven't, listen to the audiobook, read the book, check out the 1939 version. It's all good stuff. I know I said it earlier, not to repeat myself. If you want stuff that ties into the novel as it is, that's out there. You can go find that right now. And also, I wanted to say earlier, there's a Tom Hardy version where he plays Heathcliff. I bet he's got great intensity.
Oh, wow.
And I believe that one starts with the kids and works its way back to explain why he's treating them so poorly. So I think that's an interesting take on it. There's one from 2011 where an actor of color is cast as Heathcliff. I think that's a great adaptation. So I think that's another thing. Like, class is certainly a factor here, but also race is a factor. He's described as a Romani descent in the novel. I don't think you ever get to the bottom of exactly what he is, just that the slur for Romani is used several times against him. And I think bringing in the race into it's there. So yes, you could have gone there. Again, this is Fennell's kind of romance novel version of it. So she just wanted to cast actors. I don't think there's any nefarious intent behind that. But again, I think that's a portion of the story you could lean into and do some really interesting work. And I do want to check out the 2011 version. I just had only so much time for Wuthering Heights in my life.
Do you feel just in any of the adaptations, like, because a big thing for me that I was hung up on is that I didn't feel the love story between the two of them, between Heathcliff and Kathy. I didn't feel that until the very end. Did you feel that in the other versions, or is it sort of as almost like, I don't want to say ambiguous, but just not as strong maybe?
I think here it's good. Again, I'm not going to be like, this is the definitive version of Wuthering Heights. I'm like, okay, I think the level of passion, because when Heathcliff returns after years, he and Catherine start this extremely passionate affair. And in a montage, they're hooking up all over the place. And that's not in the novel. And again, it's well lit. The scenes look gorgeous. Again, not your mother's Wuthering Heights version. That level of obsession, I'm going to say no, because they're not also that complicated, and I'm going to use the word loosely, evil. I think that's part of it. It's just like they're crazy over the top passion in good ways and bad ways. And also, I think toxic. Is it a toxic romance?
Yeah.
And I would not label this as toxic. I think how they treat Linton is poor because she's cheating on her husband, but I think she loves Heathcliff with her whole heart, if that makes so. It's like, where's the damage? Whereas in the other from the 92 version, they invent where when she's off being taken, so there's a part where she gets injured and in the book she gets sick. And because she's close to the Linton property, she spends some time there away from Heathcliff and he's upset. And something in the 92 version is he's like, while you were gone, he found like baby birds. He put a fence over them so like the mama bird couldn't feed them and they'd starve to death. And he's like, if you'd come back to me sooner, I would have let them live. He's just callously cool, but like he's so upset he's going to take it out on these like innocent things, but that's how toxically in love he is with her. I will take it out on the world that I can't have you. And that's the good and the bad. That's what the novel captures. It's both things at the same time. So to your point, in the novel, they are two Hellraiser kids together. There is just this level of, well, he is only a servant. Like, how far can I take this? And I think that's done very well in the 1939 version, where he tries to get her to come away with him. And she's like, what, we're going to live on the street like beggars? Like, she basically, Heathcliff, I love you, but like, don't be silly. I think that level of like passion is present there. I think the Boonwell version, because it starts in media res, him just showing up, there's almost like this weird magic, but like he just shows up and they just slip back into their old ways and they're going off together again. And that almost, it does the shorthand because you don't know their backstory. It's just like, wow, he's got like a real magic spell on her. And I think that comes across. Again, the 92 version, I just don't think Binoche's one side of that character is given as much room to breathe as, because Ralph Fiennes can be Heathcliff from front to back in that movie, I think he lives in that skin very well, because I think they're trying to get through the entire novel in an hour and 45 minutes. To your point, the love story's there. I would say that one to me is the most underdeveloped of the four films that we're talking about, but his performance is so great that maybe that offsets it a little bit.
Got it. Okay.
All right. Woo. All right. Well, that was a lot of Wuthering Heights. Is there anything you want to get into before we head over to categories?
Everything else I want to talk about is going to be in categories, so I'm good.
All right. What is the heart of the film?
So initially, it was going to be terrible people need love too. But I'm actually going to go with a potential t shirt quote.
Oh, okay.
And that is, I have you now. Now, in the moment, it's spoken by Heathcliff when he tastes Kathy's fingers after he finds her pleasuring herself. Great line. But the more I thought about it, the heart of the film is, I have you now. Emphasis on now. This is a film all about obsession, power, and possession. Kathy's father takes possession of Heathcliff. Isabella makes a doll of Kathy, which is possessing her in a way. Heathcliff takes possession of Isabella. Many examples, but the two scenes that solidified the heart of the film for me are, one, the scene we talked about with Joseph and Zillah. Kathy witnessing that. Joseph is clearly dominating her. He has her. And the second scene is when Kathy visits Wuthering Heights after years of being away, and she runs into Joseph, who tells her that Zillah is gone, that she's married and has a child, and she doesn't even acknowledge him anymore in town. And I think he says, I'd embarrass her. And all that is to say that for me, the heart of the film is, I have you now, but not forever. And that theme runs throughout the entire film.
Ooh, really well done. Also, glad you called attention to that Joseph scene, because it came back. It's not just, hey, we have sexy Joseph. It's also, he had this passionate relationship at one point, but because they have different social standings now, they're going to be apart forever. And that's exactly what she was worried about happening. And it probably would have happened had it played out. So she's not wrong there.
Yeah, that was a great scene when she went to visit and she ran into him, and can't even picture that character being an older Bible thumping man. It works so well in this film and the themes that Emerald's exploring here.
Also, I like, he doesn't have the most screen time, but when she asks about Zillah, it brings like a smile to his face as if he hadn't thought about her in a long time. And it's just a tiny, but like it brings a lived-in quality to it. And it's not the biggest thing, but I appreciate that. All right, mine is a quote from the novel. He's more myself than I am. Whatever our souls are made of, his and mine are the same. So whatever they're good or bad, they're yin and the yang. All right, favorite scene.
We talked about this one too. Heathcliff sneaks into Isabella's room and is 100% honest with how he's going to treat her, how he's going to take possession of her. He keeps asking her, do you want me to stop? She does not want him to stop. He lays it out. I'm going to treat you like shit. I'm only doing this for my own personal reasons. They end up getting married at City Hall and he doesn't even kiss her. He just walks off. And that was the moment I realized, oh, we're not supposed to like these people. But the scene of him visiting her and laying it all out and her just being completely enamored and enchanted by him, I loved that scene.
That's a good one. I will say, again, empathy. You're empathetic. I think in the story, Lyndon comes off as a mostly good guy, little elitist, but also soft compared to Heathcliff. And then Isabella comes off as kind-hearted, but woefully naive. And Fennell's version of woefully naive is real. Speaking of, it's all about dials. She's this horny oddball. And it's great. It's great. But like, not like that in any of the other versions. So that is definitely a Fennell cut. She's like comic relief in a way she isn't in the other ones. The way, like, she is so sheltered, how that manifests itself, it's there. Isabella's always a little off, but like the way she makes her off in this, it's totally, she made it her own.
It might not be the last time we hear about Isabella.
Might not be the last time we hear about that. My favorite scene is the Catherine confessing to Nellie her feelings and having him come, because one, it's just it's a great scene, but two, and again, the way Fennell slightly changes the story, bends the story to her will, that's one of the really good examples of it. Because Nellie being complicit or not throughout the novel, I feel like Nellie gets a pass, and in the movie, she absolutely does not get a pass. Thumbs up to that, and that is emphasized in that scene where she allows Heathcliff to overhear it, and that's going to alter both of their lives at that point.
And I love the way that Fennell plays it with Kathy. The scene starts with Kathy on her knees, just bawling, crying, and then she tells Nellie that Linton asked her to marry him. And even we as the audience have no idea what she said. She does tell Nellie that she said yes, but she says it in such a like neutral tone and neutral way. Yeah, it's a great scene. That's a good pick. One other sort of scene or montage I want wanted to call out because I did love this moment is when Kathy is pestering and being annoyed that the Lintons haven't called on her.
Oh yeah.
It's a fun, cute montage, and I like that as she gets more annoyed at the Lintons, she's pestering Heathcliff more and more until he can't take it anymore. So he picks her up and he places her on a high tree branch, which she can't get off of without tearing her skirts. And then the way she gets back at him is when he sits on his bed. She had placed eggs underneath his blanket, so he just sits and you hear the crack.
That's cute. And then that also announces his return.
Yeah.
And that's all made up for the film. So they got, again, a cute business there.
Oh, that wasn't in the book. Okay. Yeah. So
that's the thing. In the book, he comes back and he gets to Nellie first. And he's like, I'm outside. Have me invited in. And so it's like Nellie's more like involved in the story.
Oh, is the book written in a way where she's almost an unreliable narrator or no?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
That's been people. Now, look, do I think that was Bronte's intent? I can't say for sure, but it's also how much is she jealous of these people? That's a question you always have to ask yourself because she is just the servant. She doesn't have a social life of her own. She's not married with children. So it's kind of like she's observing the soap opera from the sidelines. So what is her? And also, as much as she might call Heathcliff a villain, she has known him most of her life. So there are times where she's helping him even where maybe she shouldn't be. So I think the movie picking up on that and kind of shifting that a little bit, as much as people might not like this, Fennell's familiar with the source material and stuff like, I told my wife about the confession scene. She goes, oh, that's a cool way to handle it. And I do think, I agree. That's a cool way to handle it.
Yeah.
Favorite shot?
There's a shot of Isabella and Kathy in the dining room standing in front of a dollhouse. And Isabella has just shown Kathy the doll she made of Kathy using her real own hair. Isabella places the doll inside the dollhouse, and there's a match cut to inside the house, the dollhouse, that shows the dolls in the exact same position as them outside of it. And I thought that was really clever.
Yep. Honestly, this was a tough one for me. It's a great looking movie.
It's beautiful. Again, it's a gorgeous looking film. Yeah.
And again, the shot you just said where he places her in the tree, that's a good one. There's a scene where, Catherine's had her sexual awakening and she's gone off to kind of be by herself. And Heathcliff's kind of following her and there's the mists they were walking through it all. The montage that they're hooking up. I love Linton's place in this. Like I just again, and also not everything looks like this. Now, maybe there's a version where the whole world would be kind of pitched at that tone. It's not like when you go into the town square, that also looks gorgeous. It's that house, because Linton is so rich, he has the means to make it look, and all the rooms are color coded. So where mine was, also the leeches on the wall, that's a great one that stands out. But having to choose one, when Catherine finds out that Nellie could have told Heathcliff gives away that like, oh, Nellie saw me while you were doing that confession. So Nellie could have cut off the conversation where that never happened and Heathcliff never left. She tries to fire her. So Nellie goes to Linton and basically tells him like, hey, your wife's hooking up with this other guy. So Linton's going to tell Kathy to not see him anymore, and then that will snowball eventually into her death because she's gonna start to get upset, going through childbirth. Nellie's decision here is gonna snowball into Catherine's end, and when he's gonna tell her, it starts with her in the room that's based on her skin that's very pink. She has to walk through a red room, and then she has to walk into Linton's room, which is green, and it's all in one shot of her walking in out of where she's the boss into the area where he's the boss, and he's about to give her this news that's going to end up like killing her. And I thought that was a great visual way to show that, like, the power dynamic was about to shift.
That's so cool. Like we already said, there's so many great shots. The shot of her in her wedding gown walking along the field, I turned to my wife and I was like, that's a beautiful shot. One other shot I want to call out in the very end, another match cut, is when Heathcliff and Kathy are kids laying in bed. As a kid, he says he will always be by her and always be there. It cuts to a match cut of present day of Heathcliff in bed with Kathy's dead body. It was a beautiful ending.
All right, MVP.
It's Alison Oliver's Isabella. What a performance. Isabel talking to Edgar about Romeo and Juliet that you talked about. It's just like she's a film bro talking about a movie they just saw. And I had a revelation, Greg. Are we Isabella?
I hope so, Andreas. I hope so. One of the other versions doesn't fare as well. I feel like this one gets to her cake and eat it too.
I love Alison Oliver's performance in this. When Heathcliff joins them for dinner and Isabella's completely completely smitten with him. And she lowers the shoulder of her dress just slightly, hoping he'll notice. But Kathy notices and gets annoyed. That's such a great moment. I already talked about the great scene where Heathcliff visits her to tell her what he's going to do with her.
You know, I'm gonna go with Jacob Elordi. I like him as Heathcliff. Look, there are crueler Heathcliffs out there. There are Heathcliffs that maybe have more three dimensions to do. But again, this is a very famous role he's stepping into under fire. Because look, Jacob Elordi, good-looking guy, also very handsome. Please stay with me here. But Ralph Fiennes, I think we're used to a certain brutality. We've seen him in like villain mode. We've seen him like turn it on. Jacob Elordi, he's going to have a long, like wonderful career. I'm sure we'll see like plenty of stuff like that. He's an attractive guy, and I think it's like, well, did you just get this because you're a good-looking dude? But I think he's a very talented actor, and with this alternate version, this what if or else world version of Heathcliff that is nicer than the other versions that we've seen. I think he brings a nice gravity to it. I think he pulls that off. Also, there's a level of menace later on where it's, would you rather me get rid of Linton for you? And the way he kind of plays into, like, I think he plays into the darkness more, and it's not Roby's fault. I think it's the screenplay. She's never allowed to go full asshole, for lack of a better term. Like, she's horrified by that. Where I feel like the book version of Catherine, if he threatened to kill Linton, wouldn't want him to do it. But I feel like she'd either be playful about it or she'd be more scolding about it. I don't think she'd be horrified, if that makes sense. And I feel like this Catherine's horrified by even the suggestion. But I thought it was a fun performance. Again, you can change some things. You can take out Hindley. You can make the dad a mess. You can futz around with Nellie. You have to land Heathcliff and Catherine somewhat for your version to be at all successful. And I feel like he lands it for this version. All right, underrated element.
The music by Charlie XCX. I thought the music is really cool, and I love how it spins a modern take into it, and it works for this version of the story.
I feel like in 2026, we've seen this. People can't get upset about this anymore. How many classical movies have used modern music at this point? You can't be like, oh, I can't believe they're using Charlie XCX. It's like, get over it.
Was that a thing?
People got upset. Oh, look at Emerald Fennell use. Yeah, it was just one more. Like, it was like almost like a douchey thing to do. And it's like, fuck you. Like a lot of movies use modern soundtracks.
That was real. Like, people really came after her for that. That's so lame. Hey, if I make a movie, Charlie XCX is more than welcome to do.
All right. To the official Reeldeemers invite for Charlie XCX to come. All right, mine is Martin Clunes as Mr. Earnshaw, the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That's a really inspired take. And again, you don't need to burn screen time on the history. Like, it's one less character to track. You could spend more time on the romance. It's not just that he's Jekyll and Hyde. It's both a brutal, but also kind of funny performance. Him being upset about the birthday. It's horrifying because it's going to end with, Heathcliff getting whipped. But like, a grown man pouting about his birthday. It's also silly. And I think he toes the line between like both sides of that and getting more and more disgusting as the film goes on. That was a cool take. And I think he plays it well.
He's great. I understand him being the underrated element for you, knowing what the character is in the other versions and knowing how his character here is combining elements of other characters, which I think is awesome. We're about to do Who's Having the Most Fun, and I had him as having the most fun because I think Martin Clunes is great as this role and in everything you just said.
Well, that's great. And then also, you can't be the only one giving dear sweet Isabella some love. She is who is having the most fun. Again, normal Isabella not having much fun. Absolutely going through the ringer. One thing I like in the 39 version is Isabella is in this now horrible marriage to Heathcliff, and they get wind that Catherine's dying. She's delighted by that news. Because maybe if Kathy dies, he'll finally give her up and come over to me. And I thought that was a cool way to kind of like bet. So she's a sweet character, but also there's a cruelty within her as well. I thought that was a good, and also you can get where she's coming from. My life sucks. Maybe my life will get a little better if she goes away.
No, that's definitely a great angle. I like here with Heathcliff pushing her to write the letters.
Yeah.
And her being complacent in it is just, that was a cool little angle. Like, she's going along for the ride. Any way he treats her here, it's consensual. She knows what's going on. She knows the reason she's there, and she's all for it.
Well, Alison Oliver was really good at Saltburn as well, and she's good here. So I think Fennell knows Like that's like an ace in her hand. So just like, I hope their working relationship continues. No, a lot of fun. And also it's not a traditionally fun role, and they find a way to make it fun, and it works. It's not just a stunt casting or a stunt way of writing it, but like, oh, that's an interesting 2026 take on the character that lands and stands out. What scene would you show to someone to hook them?
I already talked about it, but it would be the montage of Kathy getting annoyed that the Lintons haven't called on her. Again, it's a fun, cute montage, and I think it gives a good idea of the relationship that's being built with Heathcliff without giving too much away of the later story.
I like where it's them in horrible Wuthering Heights, and it's cold, and they don't have any wood to throw on the fire. Catherine's just like, I guess I'm going to have to marry Linton because I need to solve like this money problem we're having. Heathcliff's so horrified by that suggestion, he gets up and he smashes the very chair that he's sitting on to make sure that she's warm, and he will provide for her like no matter what. And I think that cements the relationship. Also, another well shot scene. And if you just want a taste of their relationship with each other to kind of bring somebody in, I think that's a good one.
That's a really good scene. Yeah.
T-shirt quote.
I have finally found my match in degradation. Is that from the book?
You know, I've watched so many versions at this point. Some of the quotes are like, yeah, it's 100%. I think so, but listener, I hope you'll bear with me. I've consumed a lot of Wuthering Heights the last few days. I went with, if I thought you really meant that, I'd cut my own throat. About whether, if she says she doesn't care at all if he goes off with Isabella, and he calls her bluff, and I always love how that's delivered in each version. I do like the Heathcliff and the Boonwell version. Alejandro in that version, every scene he looks like he's about to punch through the wall. He just looks furious the entire time, and then just like Catherine just puts it, yep, that's how he is. Oh, what are you gonna do? I love the guy. So, but like, I think that's the level, again, match by freak. She knows he's like that, and she's like, yep, I love that guy, and like, and he'll do anything for her. Like, he'll chew glass, he'll like kill somebody if she asks. And I do love that, but I get why that's not here in this version. All right, are there any Oscars you would give this?
I do too. I would nominate for Best Supporting Actress Hung Chow as Nellie, and forgive my pronunciation of their name, and also Alison Olivers as Isabella.
Yeah, I'm glad you called out Hung Chow as Nellie. She's good. She's really good here. And again, like, there's a Nellie in every version, but they don't always stand out. And I feel like this, of the four, and I know there's plenty more out there, of the four that I've seen, this is by far the most attention like centered on this character. And I also making it a woman of color, that's interesting because, like, again, the outsider aspect, not only she's a servant, she's not the same race, good enough to be friends when we were kids. She's not treated well by Catherine. She's just treated as a servant as the story goes on. And like, towards the end, they finally start to make, like literally towards the very end, but you get why she'd be upset. And also, there are moments in the novel where you want to yell at Catherine for being silly. So when she's going off on her, Fennell's also speaking through her as well. So I like that.
And is she, because in this version, she is a bastard. Her father, I think, was noble, but her mother wasn't. Is that how it is in the other
totally invented
versions? Wow, because that totally works for her character here, because then she does sort of have that air of, I'm a little bit better than everyone else. Because there's that great shot, I almost called it out, where Nellie's drinking tea and Zilla's standing behind her and kind of reminds her of her place. She calls her a bastard, and Nellie just smacks the cup of tea off of the table because she knows Zilla has to clean it up. And again, a great character moment to show. I think you said it best in your descriptions of all the versions. This is a story about humans. We have good and we have bad moments. We can sometimes be assholes. Like, that just happens.
Yep. And I think that's it. Like, I have a deep empathy for these characters, despite them at times doing monstrous things. And I think, and also, like, Bronte died young, 30, I believe. What a shame we were robbed. But like this is a total heater of a novel to like make, especially back then. And I think it stands up. But my Oscar would be best cinematography. I do think this looks great. I totally see what you're saying, where you could go even further with it and be more over the top and more campy and everything. Absolutely. But like, seeing some of the other ones that are by far more muted than this, I do like the vision. Seeing this version of Thrushcross Grange, it's gorgeous. And I've never seen a version quite like it before. And again, whether or not this is too over the top for you, your mileage may vary, but I enjoyed spending time in this mansion and this version of opulence, and how different that is from Wuthering Heights, and the weather, the way the weather is. I dig it. And I know we're going to be wrapping up with like final thoughts in a second. Like, the cinematography alone's a star out of my star rating. Even if I hated every frame of this, I would have this on in the background just to enjoy that alone. I think that, and there's a lot of care put into that, as I said earlier. So I couldn't just crumple this up and throw this away with no thought behind it. I think Fennell's got a vision. Just you might or might not be on board with it. We always like to wrap up with a crew shout out. I went with Carolyn Barkley. They also worked on Saltburn, which looks great. The Favorite, Argyle, and more recently, The Sheep Detectives.
Oh, nice. I actually want to see that. I think that's such a cute trailer.
People keep telling me it's
Have
great.
you seen it?
No, people are over the moon about it. What about you?
I'm going to call out B camera first assistant Chloe Harwood, whose other credits include Begonia, Jay Kelly, Deadpool and Wolverine, and Saltburn, amongst many others.
Couple Saltburn vets. I dig it.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you for going on this journey with me. Again, I don't think this is the definitive version of Wuthering Heights, nor do I think that was Emerald Fennell's intention with making this film. So I guess that's it. If you're a Wuthering Heights fan, yeah, check it out. If you've never seen it, maybe it'd go down even easier. I don't know, but I would say give it a thumbs up. And as I said earlier, no irony. I do think it's a quality flick, a lot of intention behind it, and some good performances.
I would recommend it for if you want a different take, because obviously this is way different than the book and other versions per Greg's description of them. I think it's worth checking out. Again, I do wish I was enamored with the love story a little bit more, but maybe that wasn't the point, and I just had that expectation of it.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Reeldeemers. If you enjoyed what you heard, please support us by leaving a like, subscribe, or review on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. You can find us on Blue Sky, Instagram, and YouTube. If you want to reach out and send a comment, you can email us at reeldeemers@gmail.com. Our music is by Adolfo Delanoy, and you can check him out on Instagram at Adolfo Delanoy. Take care, everyone.